Hello everyone. Today is day 5 of 21 days to finding hope in uncertain times. And this is about what if statements. And this tapping is going to be different than others in that we're not going to start in the karate chop. We're going to start at the eyebrow and tap through the points. So what if statements are wonderful statements because you're bridging, it's a way to bridge your thoughts. So I'll give an example. God, my husband and I were talking about this yesterday. It was 10 to 11 years ago that almost to the day yesterday that we went through some really hard times with some stuff. And we were like, oh my God, it's crazy to see how almost it's coming full circle as far as just things that are happening in the world. Only this is has a completely different layer to it, and we're like, wow, it's really fascinating to do that. And so what, many of you know this story, but this is a good example. So during that time, a decade ago, I would lay in bed at night and I could not eke out a positive thought. I couldn't. I was so this is kind of fascinating to know. Every single thought that we have, every single thought emits 50 to 70,000 neurochemicals into our body and into our cells. So the more you think a thought, the more you are cellularly programming your thoughts for more thoughts like that. And there's varying times on this, but around 60 days, you're literally, what happens is some of these cells will start to divide. And what happens is the new thoughts that are divided off, the new cells that are divided off those other cells have more of a tendency towards the thoughts you've been thinking than the cells they came from. So we are literally programming our body and our minds and our thoughts through the thoughts that we think. And if you want to know more about stuff like this, you could find Joe Dispenza and read up on his information. You can find Bruce Lipton, read up. He has The Biology of Belief. Dawson Church has The Genie in Your Genes. Those are all people that have done tons of research on this. So during this time, more than ever, is a time to start paying attention to this. So what was happening for me is I would lie in bed at night and I would fall asleep, but I would wake up with because my subconscious thoughts that I'd been thinking all day just got activated, and I couldn't eke out a positive thought. And the problem was this, that I'm like, I know I shouldn't be thinking this way. Like, I know I shouldn't be thinking this way, but I couldn't stop it. And the bigger problem was I was telling myself that I should try to think positive. And this is something that I've heard through Abraham Hicks. Whether you like them or not, I take pieces of things that just make sense to me, that I love. Is what I understand now is I was reaching for thoughts that were out of reach for me. And even physiologically, they were out of reach for me. I had so much momentum going towards the negative. I had so much momentum. It made sense that I couldn't stop it. Had I known then what I know now, I was like, oh wow, I can't stop the thought, but I can interrupt it. That came to me one day doing tapping. I'm like, you can't stop your thoughts, but you can interrupt them. And when you interrupt them, you're starting to break up those patterns of thinking. And ultimately, you start to change your cells. And then you start to have more thoughts that are like the new thoughts that you're creating. So what if statements are wonderful because you're throwing out possibility, and the brain is more likely to believe them. So think of the difference of this. Let me think about some. This is a disaster. This is a disaster current state of affairs. It's a disaster. You could get a bazillion people to agree with you. It's a disaster. And does that make you feel good to go, oh my God, it's a disaster? So then try and say, it's not a disaster. And in EFT, we call that a tail ender, a yeah, but. The brain's going to go, bullshit. It's like, no, it's like, I can't believe that it's not a disaster. That thought is way too far out of reach for you. If for a while now you've been like focused on all the disaster. So now think about this statement. What if there's something greater going on here? What if? Now you might be like, you might still think, ugh, it's BS. But you might be like, I don't know, maybe there is. So what you're looking is to bridge your thoughts to feel better, not go from one extreme to the other. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to start on the eyebrow and we're just going to tap through the points, and I'm just going to say what if statements while we're tapping. So go to the eyebrow. What if, despite all that I'm witnessing, there's something greater going on here? What if within this disaster, there are forces at work here that maybe I don't understand? And what if there really is something different happening here? What if the way it's been appears like it's been working, but what if it hasn't been? What if there's some new possibilities greater than I can even think about now, that will have the space to come into being because of what's happened? And what if I can't stop the momentum of my thought right now? But what if I can interrupt those thoughts so they don't spiral out of control? What if it's kinder to myself to interrupt those thoughts that spiral out of control? What if it's better for me, better for my loved ones, better for all humanity, and better for the world that I don't let my mind spin out of control? And what if, when I catch myself in the act, of starting to circle the drain with my thoughts. I can be kind and loving with myself. And not tell myself, I shouldn't be thinking this way. I shouldn't be feeling this. What if the kindness I can extend to myself is to remind myself, it's okay that I've been thinking this way. I'm not bad or stupid. What if I have a lot of momentum going? And what if I can't stop these thoughts, but I can interrupt them? And what if the more I interrupt them, the more I find relief? And then what if I can become a lighthouse for myself? In the face of the storm that's out there. And what if that has the potential to change everything for me? What if that's worth a try? Because this feeling so bad, I don't think that's helping me. And what if I can remind myself once again, I can't feel bad enough to make anyone else feel well. I can't get upset enough to change what's happening here. And what if I can honor all of my feelings? Honor the sadness, honor the fear, honor the terror, tap through them, or use any technique that helps me to find some relief. And what if I do find that relief? And what if that helps me feel so much less terror, so much less anxiety? Honor my grief. Honor everything that's coming up for me. But sometimes I see I can drown in these emotions. And I don't want to do that to myself anymore. So whenever I catch myself circling the drain with my thoughts, what if the kindest, most loving thing I can do for myself, do for those around me, is to interrupt them so that I find that relief and I start to feel better. And what if by doing that, I start to see things differently? I have an entirely new shift in perception. And what if things work out for me in ways I could never imagine before? And then take a breath. So if you found that helpful, go back and tap on it as many times as you need to. Again, what if statements are great because you're bridging the thoughts. Again, this is not to deny what you feel, and not at all to go, just think happy thoughts and it'll all be okay. No. And you can go into the emotion. And really, the caveat is when you're feeling the intensity of something, just tap. Just tap, because that's going to help shift it. Tapping works great with the presence of emotion. So it's not like, oh, I'm not going to think that way. I'll think about it tomorrow. I call it the Scarlett O'Hara effect. I'm not going to think about that today. I'll think about it tomorrow. There's something to be said for that on some level. Because I've had that too, where before I had tapping, when, oh my God, my thoughts were just going down, like I was getting sucked down into this abyss. And then I'd be like, I got to do something different. But the beauty with tapping is you're not going to deny the emotion. You're not going to say I shouldn't feel or think that way. You actually go into the emotion, but you tap through it. And if you're concerned about the emotion that can come up for you, please find someone to help you through this. Get someone who can help you, someone that you trust, so that you feel supported in that. You don't feel like I'm hanging out there to dry by myself. Just make sure that you find someone that you trust, that can witness you or help you through that. Together we can do what we cannot do alone, and there's so much truth in that. So the what ifs, what if there really is another way to see this? What if, in spite of all the media, there's something more going on here? What if there really is? It's like the earth is hitting a reset button. What if the way it's been hasn't worked? What if there's a new way of being coming in? Like, if you entertain, the key is you want to soften this intensity first. You want to find relief from it. And you'll know, the beauty with tapping is if people go to the positive before they're ready, you'll know, because you're like, the brain's going to go, no, nuh-uh, don't believe that at all. And then you go, that's your roadmap on what to tap on. You're like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. The problem that I was facing is I was making myself wrong all the time for how negative my thoughts were. And that was like doubling down on myself. It's like I would lie there and I'm like, oh my God, I know I shouldn't be thinking this way. And I'm trying to think positive, but I couldn't. And I was terrorizing myself with the thought that I shouldn't be thinking or feeling the way that I was when I was. And the beauty with tapping is you don't have to deny any of that. But in order to slow the momentum of it, you go, oh, I'm going to tap. And what you'll find if you're consistent with it is you don't have to try to think positive. You don't have to try to feel better. It's a natural byproduct of going into the darkness, going into those thoughts that are starting to spiral out of control, tapping through them, and then you'll all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, I just feel lighter. That's what anyone I've ever worked with. they said, oh my God, I just feel lighter. And it doesn't mean that the problem's not there, that you're not, but the attention that's focused on it is separated from it. And from that place, you have access to the prefrontal cortex and the part of the brain that's creative and slower, the thinking part of the brain that can offer solutions and offer different possibilities. And for anyone, many of you know that my sister passed away last year. If you have lost a loved one in this, I'm not at all saying, oh, just think happy thoughts about him and find it. No, grief is a process and you go through it. I would say I'm still going through that myself. And the thing is, as I've allowed myself those emotions, what I feel like I've been left with is what I've called it amazing, beautiful grief. Allowing myself those moments when I just feel intense sadness and let that move through me. And I feel like really it's the way that I honor my sister, and yet staying stuck in that doesn't honor anyone. And yet now I have a tool so that I don't have to stay stuck in that and keep going down, the rabbit hole of like, oh my God. So anyway, that's it. I hope you found this helpful, and take good care of yourselves out there. And my sister just popped in my head. Love one another. That's what she said all the time. Love one another. And I fall short of that many, many times in my life. Mary, thank you. She just said that. Love one another. Do the best you can with that. Take good care. Bye-bye.